Tonight, two separate storylines are unfolding at the same time, and together they may help explain where the Middle East crisis is heading next. In Moscow, Iran's foreign minister has arrived in Russia as part of a regional diplomatic tour. Publicly, the visit is about coordination, dialogue, and regional stability. Unofficially, it comes at a moment when Tehran is watching multiple pressure points ignite at once. Gaza under continued bombardment, tensions with Israel still high, uncertainty around U.S. policy, and a growing race among regional powers to shape what comes next. At the same time, inside Gaza, medics report another deadly day of Israeli strikes. In Gaza City, 3 people were killed, including 2 police officers. In Beit Lahia, tank shelling killed 2 more. In Khan Yunis, 7 people were killed, including 4 police officers, when a strike hit a police vehicle near a wedding hall, according to witnesses. Those deaths are not just another casualty count. They point to a deeper strategy, a collapsing civic structure, and a widening diplomatic struggle over who controls the narrative of this war. To understand why Iran's top diplomat is in Moscow tonight and why police officers in Gaza are becoming targets, it helps to slow down and follow the sequence carefully. The day's first reports came from Gaza City. Emergency crews said an Israeli strike killed 3 people, among them 2 members of the local police force. Later, shelling in Beit Lahia in northern Gaza killed 2 more. Then came one of the deadliest incidents of the day in Khan Yunis, where a strike reportedly hit a police vehicle near a wedding hall, killing 7 people, including 4 officers. Witnesses described chaos in an area where civilians were already living under constant fear. Weddings in Gaza, once symbols of continuity and survival, now happen in the shadow of war, displacement, and sudden violence. A police vehicle near a wedding hall becoming the site of an airstrike captures the reality of Gaza in one image. There is no clear line anymore between civilian life and military danger. Gaza's interior ministry said the attacks deliberately targeted the police force. It accused Israel of trying to destroy the limited institutions still functioning inside the besieged enclave. The statement matters because policing in Gaza is not only about traffic stops or crime patrols. In wartime, police often become the people managing aid lines, crowd control, emergency movement, local disputes, and the fragile daily order that prevents total breakdown. When police officers are killed, the impact goes far beyond the individuals lost. It can mean fewer people directing food distribution, fewer people controlling panic at aid sites, fewer people securing roads used by ambulances, fewer people able to respond when desperate civilians clash over scarce supplies. In a territory already pushed to the edge, every damaged institution multiplies the pressure. The Israeli military confirmed it carried out a strike in Gaza City, despite a ceasefire arrangement that has been repeatedly violated over time. That phrase, repeatedly violated, has become one of the defining patterns of this conflict. Ceasefires are announced. Temporary calm follows. Then accusations begin almost immediately. One side says rockets were fired, another says raids continued, another says humanitarian access was blocked. Soon, the agreement exists on paper while violence returns on the ground. For civilians trapped inside Gaza, the difference between a functioning ceasefire and a broken one is measured in survival. It means whether families sleep through the night, whether bakeries open, whether aid trucks move, whether hospitals can restock, whether children hear drones overhead, and for diplomats across the region, every collapse of a ceasefire changes calculations. That brings us back to Moscow. Iran's foreign minister arriving in Russia is not an isolated visit. It is part of a broader regional tour, which usually signals active consultation rather than ceremonial diplomacy. In moments of crisis, such tours are designed to align positions, test alliances, send warnings quietly, and prepare for possible escalation. Russia and Iran have built a closer strategic relationship in recent years. They cooperate economically, politically, and in security matters. Both governments also share an interest in reducing U.S. influence in the region and resisting Western pressure campaigns. So when Iran's foreign minister lands in Moscow during renewed violence in Gaza, regional observers read several possible messages. First, coordination. Iran backs a network of allied groups and political partners across the region. Any serious shift in Gaza can affect Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, the Red Sea, and beyond. Russia, with ties to Israel, Iran, Arab states, and global institutions, remains a player capable of talking to nearly everyone, even when it cannot control events directly. Second, leverage. Diplomacy is often about timing. Visiting Moscow while Gaza burns reminds the world that Iran has options and relationships beyond the West. It also reminds Washington and European capitals that isolating Tehran completely has limits. Third, deterrence. When tensions rise, states communicate not only through speeches, but through travel, meetings, and photo opportunities. A handshake in Moscow can be meant for audiences in Tel Aviv, Washington, Riyadh, and Brussels all at once. But there is another layer to this story that receives less attention: the battle over governance. Wars are not only fought to destroy military capability, they are also fought to shape who can govern afterward. In Gaza, if police forces, municipal structures, and civil administrators are steadily weakened, then the territory becomes harder to manage, harder to stabilize, and harder to rebuild. That creates a vacuum, and vacuums rarely stay empty. They are filled by armed factions, criminal networks, external powers, emergency committees, tribal structures, or new political movements, sometimes all of them at once. That is why the targeting of civil personnel draws such intense scrutiny. Even when militaries argue that individuals had security roles or dual functions, the broader effect can still be institutional collapse. Ground reality often moves faster than official statements. Officially, strikes may be described as precise operations. On the ground, neighborhoods experience them as another blow to already shattered systems. Officially, ceasefires may still exist. On the ground, civilians hear explosions. Officially, diplomacy continues. On the ground, bodies are carried from rubble. This gap between language and lived reality is one of the central facts of modern war. Inside Gaza tonight, families are not debating strategic doctrine. They are calculating water, bread, medicine, and whether the next strike lands nearby. Inside Israel, officials continue to frame operations through security needs, deterrence, and the elimination of hostile threats. Inside Iran, leaders are measuring whether Gaza's destruction strengthens anti-Israel sentiment across the region and how to convert that sentiment into political advantage without triggering a direct, wider war. Inside Russia, policymakers see another chance to present Moscow as an indispensable diplomatic center while global attention remains divided. And in Washington, every new strike adds pressure to explain policy, alliances, humanitarian concerns, and the long-term endgame, because that is the unresolved issue beneath everything else. What is the end state? If military operations continue while governance structures collapse, then even a future ceasefire may arrive into chaos. If diplomacy advances without enforcement, violence can resume within days. If regional actors use Gaza as a theater for broader rivalry, civilians remain trapped between larger agendas. History offers a warning here. When state institutions or local civil systems are dismantled during war, rebuilding them can take years, sometimes decades. Security vacuums often outlast the battles that created them. Trauma hardens politics. Younger generations inherit devastation as normal life. That is why today's deaths of police officers matter strategically, not only morally or emotionally. They may signal a campaign focused not just on present threats, but on the future shape of Gaza itself. And that future remains deeply contested. Israel says it cannot return to the status quo that existed before war. Palestinian voices across different factions reject imposed control. Arab governments speak of reconstruction and political pathways. Iran seeks influence through resistance narratives. Russia seeks relevance through diplomacy. Western capitals speak of security and humanitarian balance while struggling to define a workable plan. Meanwhile, ordinary Gazans are left waiting for systems that no longer function. Waiting for electricity, waiting for food, waiting for medicine, waiting for institutions strong enough to organize life again. Tonight, Iran's foreign minister is in Moscow, where maps, leverage, alliances, and strategy will dominate closed-door conversations. Tonight, in Gaza, survivors are dealing with funerals, fear, and another day in which even police vehicles near a wedding hall can become targets. Those two realities may seem far apart. They are, in fact, deeply connected. Because every diplomatic meeting in a capital city is shaped by what happens in places like Gaza City, Beit Lahia, and Khan Yunis. And every explosion in those places reshapes the calculations in capitals thousands of miles away. That cycle is still turning tonight. And until there is a political structure stronger than the logic of war, it will keep turning.